Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bruce Archer. I'm the mayor for the city of Mesquite, and I am truly humbled to stand here today to open our brief Memorial Day service. And what a blessing it is, a blessing to have this beautiful place that God's provided us in this community. Aren't you thankful? It's just awesome. After my remarks, I'm going to ask for a 1-minute moment of silence to coincide with the National Movement of Remembrance. That'll be preceded by the reading of the names of those from Mesquite who gave the ultimate sacrifice that have been honored here at this memorial. And then we will have the playing of taps. That will conclude our brief program, at which time you're encouraged to visit the memorial. For too many, Memorial Day has become about having a day off work, or perhaps it signals the unofficial day of summer. Sometimes it's just seen as a day to cook out and enjoy the family and be with friends. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But we can only enjoy such moments because of one word: freedom. And we know that freedom is not free. In the history of the United States, freedom has been paid for over and over with the blood of patriots, men and women who are willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice to keep America free. We know that on this memorial it says, "A sacrifice not forgotten." There is indeed true meaning in those words. The heroes on this wall and the military veterans across America who gave the ultimate sacrifice to defend our nation should not, and in Mesquite, Texas, will not be forgotten. President Ronald Reagan said it best in his remarks on Memorial Day in 1982. The United States and the freedom for which it stands, the freedom for which they died, must endure and prosper. Their lives remind us that freedom is not bought cheaply. It has a cost. It imposes a burden. And just as they whom we commemorate were willing to sacrifice, so too must we, in a less heroic way, be willing to give of ourselves. And so I'd like to end my remarks with that theme of President Reagan's, that besides taking time on days like today to honor our fallen military heroes, let us also honor their sacrifice by continuing to build a nation and a community that is more committed to freedom, and freedom for every American. Loving one another, learning to work through our differences, and that our differences, no matter how great they may ever be, will always end at the water's edge. And that we daily strive to be a united people. United under God as each generation works to make things a little better for the next. Isn't that what we're about? That we would continue building our imperfect union into a little more perfect one. So that if all these fallen heroes were here today, they'd know that their sacrifice was worth the cost. Let that be our resolve and focus as we continue honoring these lost souls after we leave here today. Now please join me in a 1-minute moment of silence.
World War I, Army Lieutenant Ferris S. Anderson, Army Private Lewis W. Casey, Navy First Petty Officer John R. Newson. World War II. Army Private Howard Allenbaugh. Army Staff Sergeant Benjamin W. Badgett. Navy Chief Gunner Guy Berry. Marines Private First Class Homer B. Browning. Navy Petty Officer First Class Jasper R. Caldwell. Army Major Edward E. Cobb, Jr. Army Technical Sergeant John A. Crane. Marines Captain Samuel T. Gillespie. Navy Seaman First Class William Gillespie. Army Major John L. Hanby. Army Technician 4th Grade Winifred E. Hayden. Navy Seaman Second Class William E. Marshall, Jr. Army Private First Class John E. Meredith. Army Staff Sergeant Preston C. Ragsdale. Army Sergeant Billy E. Smith. Army Sergeant Leslie W. Stena, Jr. Korean War. Army Private First Class Thomas M. Johnson. Marine Staff Sergeant William M. McBride. Army Sergeant Charles A. Rubley. Army Private First Class Jerry Smith. Air Force Captain Howard A. Wilson, Jr. Vietnam. Navy Airman Robert B. Cotton. Army Specialist 4th Class John W. Dunlap. Marines Captain William T. Harris. Marines Lance Corporal Robert M. Howell, Jr. Army Sergeant Michael N. Hughes. Army Chief Warrant Officer John C. Johnson, Jr. Navy Petty Officer 3rd Class Ronald P. Johnson. Marines Corporal Gary L. Labonte. Navy Petty Officer 3rd Class Scott F. Moore, Jr. Army Corporal Billy J. Roberts. Army Staff Sergeant Jimmy D. Rogers. Army Corporal James A. Swansea. Army Sergeant John M. Weatherford. Marines Private First Class Michael D. Withrow. War on Terrorism. Army Staff Sergeant Jeremy S. Border. Army Captain Simon T. Cox, Jr. Army Staff Sergeant Clay A. Craig. Army Specialist Chad H. Drake. Army Specialist Jonathan D. Emard. Army Private First Class Devin J. Harris. Army Sergeant First Class Raymond J. Munden. Army First Lieutenant Dustin D. Vincent. Army Colonel Darren L. Wright.